Sankler Shores, Michigan, a town idyllically envisioned as the quintessential American family haven, concealed a grim secret beneath its picturesque facade. A seemingly ordinary domestic dispute ignited a wildfire of speculation, gripping the entire community. The discovery of dismembered remains, a head and torso in trash bags, baffled detectives and instilled fear in the hearts of residents. What transpired? Who was this victim, and who perpetrated this unspeakable act? The answers, even for seasoned investigators, proved shocking. On the 31st of July, 2013, as dusk settled upon Sankler Shores, a stark contrast to the bustling activity of nearby Detroit. A quiet night turned sinister. A fire erupted at the home of 59-year-old Donnie and his wife, leaving the woman panicked and distraught. Ramzia, a 32-year-old woman, watched in horror as flames engulfed her home, her son Ramzi, still trapped in the basement. As the inferno raged, detectives noticed something unsettling. Donna, Ramzia's mother, had fled the house, leaving her sleeping son behind, despite knowing his location. The police posed a chilling question. Had Donna intentionally abandoned her son to perish in the fire? 14 years earlier, Donna had appeared to be the picture of maternal perfection. Sweet, affectionate, showering her sons, Jason and Ramsey, with kisses after school. Together with her husband, Den, they seemed the epitome of a happy family. Donna was fiercely supportive, always present, showering her boys with love and high expectations, reflected in her strict approach to their schooling. Donna, a woman deeply concerned with appearances, yearned for her sons, Jason and Ramsey, to achieve academic excellence. She enrolled them in a private Catholic school, envisioning their subsequent entry into college. Growing up in Seguin, Texas, Donna had always strived for perfection, excelling as a high school cheerleader, the quintessential Southern belle. In the late 70s, she and her husband, Dan Scriva, relocated to his Michigan hometown. For 2 decades, their life presented a picture of idyllic perfection to the outside world. Donna, a nurse, and Dan, a painter, lived in a beautiful home, their marriage seemingly the envy of many. This seemingly flawless facade, however, masked a deeper reality, as Donna's relentless pursuit of perfection extended to shaping the lives of her sons. After high school, Jason moved far from home, working as a laborer. Ramsey, however, became the sole focus of Donna's ambitions. He attended Wayne University, earning a degree in accounting and securing positions at several accounting firms. By 29, Ramsey Scriva was, by all accounts, a success story. Yet, a couple of months shy of his 30th birthday, a night out with friends took a devastating turn. He fell, striking his head on the concrete. The resulting traumatic brain injury dramatically altered Ramsey. He struggled with concentration, becoming easily irritable and prone to fits of anger. Daily battles with depression and anxiety ensued. Disagreements with employers became frequent, jeopardizing projects and causing Donna considerable worry. In the autumn of 2012, Ramsey relinquished his thriving career to join his father's business as a partner. His mother was deeply disappointed by this decision, a stark contrast to Ramsey's own overwhelming joy. He found immense satisfaction working alongside his father, a man who served as both a pillar of support and a role model. His father, Dan, shielded him from his mother's excessively high expectations. Later, Ramsey again defied his mother's wishes, choosing to live independently. Supported by disability benefits and his father's financial contributions, he secured his own apartment. He was, to all appearances, a self-sufficient and content man. Spring of 2013 brought a new trial for the Scriva family. Mr. Scriva had always battled health issues, but over the previous 2 years, his condition had significantly worsened. Dan Scriva had battled chronic liver failure his entire life. A rushed hospitalization revealed the disease had reached its terminal stage. The hospital offered no further hope. That same day, Dan returned home. The experience was agonizing. His family watched helplessly as he slowly faded away. Registered nurse, Donna, cared for Dan, armed with a small supply of morphine from the hospital to ease his final days. Dan's condition deteriorated far more rapidly than anyone anticipated. He passed away less than 24 hours after leaving the hospital, where he had spent 12 days. The loss devastated Dan's sons, particularly Ramsey. The situation was further complicated by the county coroner's inquest. Dan wasn't officially registered at the hospice, so a medical examiner had to investigate the circumstances of his death. Reviewing Dan's morphine prescriptions, the examiner noticed a missing vial. This vial contained a lethal dose, making its discovery critical. When questioned about the missing morphine, Donna, Dan's wife, whispered that her son, Ramsey, might have taken it. She explained that Ramsey suffered from a mental illness, and the combination of his father's death from a head injury and the missing morphine led to Ramsey becoming a suspect. Dan had been Ramsey's best friend, and Donna, witnessing Ramsey's profound grief, feared he might attempt suicide by taking the morphine to join his father. This angered Ramsey. He vehemently denied taking the morphine, insisting he was of sound mind. Then, Ramsey made a startling suggestion. Ramsey's anguished cries echoed, "She killed him! She killed my father!" His accusation hung heavy in the air, a stark claim of matricide. His mother, Dawn, dismissed his outburst, attributing it to his known mental instability. Family rallied to Dawn's side, convinced Ramsey needed help, not justice. Consequently, Ramsey was admitted to a local clinic for emergency psychiatric evaluation. His brief stay, however, was just the prelude to a bitter, protracted conflict. Much remained unspoken, hidden beneath the surface. Then, the whispers started, escalating into horrifying headlines announcing the most brutal crime in Michigan's history: the gruesome discovery of dismembered bodies. Within hours of his father's death, Ramsey found himself back in a psychiatric ward, this time suspected of a suicide attempt. Ramsey's mother, Dawn, accused him of stealing morphine, supposedly to end his life. However, a toxicology report revealed no morphine in his system. No trace of the drug was found in his blood. This didn't, however, rule out his involvement in the theft of the ampules. Remarkably, his claim that his mother had killed his father was completely ignored. Medical records simply noted a typical aggressive episode linked to his pre-existing mental health condition. The detectives, therefore, didn't pursue this line of inquiry. Dawn, seemingly unconcerned, swiftly arranged her husband Dan's cremation. Following Ramsey's release from the clinic, Dawn attempted to regain control of her fractured family and troubled son. In court, she convincingly portrayed Ramsey as a vulnerable individual, incapacitated by head trauma, a mental disorder, and the recent grief of his father's passing, claiming he was incapable of self-care. Her performance was masterful, and she appeared solely focused on her son's best interests. Donna insisted she was a capable nurse and could provide her son with the necessary care, a claim the court accepted. Ramsey returned to the family home in Sankler Shores. Donna, however, was deeply troubled by her son's disclosures to others. She avoided discussing them, offering only that Ramsey was unwell and had lost his mind. At 32 years of age, Ramsey found himself once more under his mother's roof. He raged against Donna's actions, viewing her insistence on his care as utterly absurd. As it later transpired, Ramsey was not mentally unstable, as Donna had portrayed him. He required no constant supervision and was perfectly capable of independent living. Having laid her husband to rest and regained control of her son, Donna felt ready to move on. In truth, she had already begun charting a new course long before September of 2012. 8 months before her husband Don passed away, she embarked on a solo journey. A short time before Don's death, she received an invitation to her 40th high school reunion in Texas. Thrilled at the prospect, she eagerly prepared, determined to make a strong impression. Despite her husband's illness, she dedicated herself to the task, losing weight and focusing on her appearance. She even got permanent makeup. Whether intentionally or not, she reconnected with a high school sweetheart, actively engaging in conversations that rekindled memories of her happiest days. Following the reunion, Donna returned to Michigan, but her heart remained in Texas. The contact with this man continued, growing increasingly frequent. Their connection deepened to the point where she began to consider a future with him. Following her husband's passing, June of 2013 found Dawn determined to return to her native Texas. A significant hurdle, however, stood in her way: her son, Ramsey. Dawn began gently persuading Ramsey to join her. She painted a picture of a fresh start in Texas, suggesting they sell everything and begin anew. Ramsey, however, firmly resisted, expressing his desire to remain in Michigan. The temptation to simply declare her independence, to tell him he could fend for himself while she returned home, was strong. Yet, Dawn's deep concern for her reputation ultimately prevented her from such a direct approach. The year was 2013, on the 31st of July. 2 months later, the Scrivo family home was engulfed in flames. Ramsey, trapped inside, miraculously escaped unharmed. However, something felt amiss. Emerging from the burning house, Ramsey appeared disoriented. He claimed to feel unwell, struggling to move, barely awake. Questioned by the police, he admitted to taking tranquilizers. Medical professionals suspected an overdose, but Ramsey insisted his mother administered his medication. He simply took what she gave him without question. The unspoken question lingered. What would people think if he'd abandoned his son's funeral? The firefighters, having extinguished the blaze, determined the fire's origin. The flames had started in the basement, near the boiler, where a pile of rags was found. Donna claimed Ramsey was responsible, alleging she frequently discarded lit cigarettes there. However, the firefighters reported finding no evidence of a cigarette being the cause. The investigators found the circumstances suspicious, yet lacked concrete evidence linking Donna to the fire. With no proof of arson and no injuries, the incident was officially classified as an accident. Since Ramsey was Donna's ward, they were required to live together. Their home, however, was uninhabitable. Ramsey's apartment thus became their only option. The discussions about Texas resumed, Donna once again attempting to persuade her son to relocate. Dawn knew her Texas high school romance was doomed if she couldn't persuade her son, Ramsey, to leave. But Ramsey was adamant. Dawn, however, was determined to get her way. Their arguments escalated, spilling from their home onto the streets. The shouting was incessant, echoing through the neighborhood. Ramsey even sought help from their neighbors, visiting them daily, sometimes twice a day, pleading for assistance in escaping his mother's grasp. The neighbors described him as deeply distressed, overwhelmed by the strain of living with his mother. Failing to convince Ramsey, Dawn turned to her other son, Jason, who lived in a different state. Jason suggested she didn't need to live with Ramsey, but Dawn insisted on her responsibility for his care. A chilling premonition settled over Jason. Monday, the 27th of January, 2014, saw Sankler Shores plunge to -12 degrees. This frigid weather was just one of the many reasons Dina harbored a growing fear for her son. She reported to the police that Ramsey had left home on Sunday, his phone in hand. She'd seen him heading north towards the 24-hour convenience store. He never returned. Had he walked or driven? Neither store employees nor regular customers recalled seeing Ramsey that day. His phone? It was with him, yet remained stubbornly silent. A terrible suspicion gnawed at Dina. Someone might have harmed him. Or perhaps, had he spoken of self-harm? Following her husband's death, Dawn's son, Ramsey, who had a history of mental instability, became increasingly aggressive. The case was assigned to Margaret Eade, a 25-year veteran of the police force. Dawn explained that she'd called Ramsey, but he hadn't answered. She described his attire when he left the home: a parka, pajama pants, sneakers, and a t-shirt. It was unusual. Ramsey wouldn't normally leave the house dressed like that, especially considering the brutal Sankler Shores winter that year. Daytime temperatures hovered around 15 below zero, plummeting even lower each night. Spending a night outdoors in such light clothing would have been fatal. When questioned about Ramsey's suicidal tendencies, Dawn confirmed their existence. The police treated the case with utmost seriousness. Ramsey's disappearance was far from ordinary. Officers immediately attempted to trace his phone, hoping to pinpoint his location. They also requested his phone records, knowing the process would take several days. Meanwhile, Dawn, Ramsey's wife, frantically spread the word of his disappearance. She questioned neighbors, but all denied having any contact with him. Though visibly distressed, Dawn found some temporary solace in the neighbors' reassurances. They suggested Ramsey was likely out with friends. It was a weekend, and he often stayed out late. They confidently assured her he would return or call soon. A family friend, however, showed less concern. He knew Ramsey had been struggling with his mother and speculated they'd had a disagreement, resulting in Ramsey spending the night elsewhere. But as the day wore on, Ramsey remained missing, fueling growing anxiety. That evening, Margaret Eade shared her grim prediction with a colleague. This case was likely to end badly. She feared Ramsey might be dead. Another frigid night passed, then another. 3 days after Ramsey's disappearance, police received his phone records, a revelation that chilled them to the bone. Incoming calls were from every member of the Kriva family except Donna. Despite Donna's claims of numerous calls, her number was absent from the logs. Margaret Eade immediately contacted Donna, leaving a message urging a return call. They needed to discuss the phone records urgently. Donna, usually quick to respond, remained silent. On the 30th of January, 2014, there was still no word from either Ramsey or Donna. The detectives were baffled. The frantic pleas for help typically offered by parents of missing children were conspicuously absent. A gruesome discovery shocked St. Clair County on Thursday. Dismembered body parts, found in several trash bags, included a head and torso. Authorities reported finding between 6 and 8 bags containing 12 separate pieces. The location, 70 kilometers from Detective Margaret Ade's jurisdiction, added to the complexity of the investigation. The unsettling question remained: did the remains belong to one victim or several? The horrifying news sent ripples of fear through St. Clair and neighboring Macon counties. Citizens were left reeling, struggling to comprehend the unimaginable cruelty of the crime. The police initially suspected gang involvement. Theorizing a drug deal gone wrong led to the victim's demise. Lacking leads, the case was publicized. The sheriff classified it as a double homicide, with the investigation ongoing and no arrests made. Detective Margaret Ade, already searching for Ramsey Scrive, found her missing person case unexpectedly complicated when Ramsey's mother, Donna, also vanished. Days passed without contact. Then, after 2 days of silence, Donna's unexpected call to Detective Ite at 10 in the morning broke the stillness. She inquired about any news regarding the discovered body of St. Clair. Before receiving an answer, Donna launched into a frantic account of a dismembered corpse and declared her need to join St. Clair. Margaret asked the woman why she needed to identify the body, and the woman replied that she believed it was Ramsey's. It sounded absurd. Even Detective Margaret Ade didn't believe the body was connected to the Ramsey missing person case. But why did Donna think so? Was it simply the agonizing length of time her son had been missing? Donna insisted she couldn't shake the feeling that the body was Ramsey's. St. Clair County was almost 70 kilometers from Donna and Ramsey's home. The detectives questioned the reliability of gut feelings. There was no concrete evidence linking the body to Ramsey. The investigation lacked any details connecting Ramsey's disappearance to Creva, St. Clair to Shore City, or the discovered body in St. Clair County. The connections felt contrived, a forced narrative. Meanwhile, investigators in St. Clair County diligently searched for clues related to the dismembered remains. A local high school student reported seeing a woman discard several bags near Geo St. Clair. The witness described her as light-skinned with long dark hair, driving a silver Chevrolet SUV. He saw her empty the contents of a bag, which he initially believed to be a dog. The unsettling thought of someone discarding a deceased animal sparked further investigation. Another witness, a delivery driver, corroborated the account. He'd seen the silver Chevrolet at a nearby gas station shortly before the bags were discovered. He also confirmed a woman was behind the wheel. Following multiple reports of the vehicle in the area, police obtained security footage from local gas stations. This footage, subsequently broadcast on the news, showed a woman of interest. Authorities are now urgently seeking this woman, who is suspected of disposing of bags containing what are believed to be human remains. The store security video is currently being used as key evidence in the investigation. The security footage clearly showed Creva's unmistakable betrayal. Detective Margaret Ade received another call just 2 minutes later. The forensic expert, Okurgu, confirmed a match between the victim's fingerprints and those of both Ramsey and Creva. A collective shock rippled through the room. The hunt for Donna was on. Emotions were strictly suppressed. Donna's reaction to her child's death was strangely detached, unlike the typical maternal grief. "I visited a patient there a couple of years ago," Detective Ade recalled, noticing the inconsistency. Something doesn't add up. Donna's denial that she'd been in St. Clair County the previous day crumbled when Detective Ade revealed the police had video evidence of her car. Detective Margaret Ade leaned forward. "Photos might help you remember," she said, her tone gentle but firm. "What photos?" she asked, a slight edge creeping into her voice. "Were they trying to prove her presence in St. Clair County?" Donna nodded. Margaret produced printouts of security camera footage. "What were you doing there?" she asked. Donna hesitated. I was getting takeout from Kayla Ramsey's," she mumbled. "I hope you can remember more details. We need to understand what happened." Donna's voice trailed off, a hint of desperation coloring her words. I don't have anything more to tell you. Margaret studied Donna, her expression softening. We know you're not a villain, Donna, she said quietly. I think you're just exhausted. Raising a son with a mental illness? It's incredibly challenging. I couldn't have done it, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I didn't kill my son. Perhaps he took his own life, and you're trying to cover it up. A chilling silence hung in the air, broken only by the rhythmic ticking of a clock. I didn't kill him, she repeated, her eyes darting nervously. I don't know what you want to hear, but it's the truth. Her voice cracked, a hint of desperation creeping in. I think I need a lawyer. We've received warrants to search your apartment and vehicle. What will you find there, Don? He met her gaze, a steely glint in his eyes. Nothing, he replied, his voice low and menacing. The medical examiner reported a significant amount of blood, a detail the court will certainly pursue. They'll be looking for traces of blood, of course. The amount of blood was impossible to completely remove. No matter how thorough the cleaning, any trace would be detectable. Even a single droplet would betray the crime. While Donna remained silent, investigators searched Ramsey's apartment. His mother's home had been destroyed by fire, forcing her and her son to share his living space. The pungent odor of bleach hit them the moment they stepped inside, intensifying with each step up the stairs. A trail of blood and bleach led from the bathroom to Ramsey's bedroom, a clear indication of Donna's desperate attempt at cleanup. Hours later, the autopsy revealed Ramsey's cause of death: strangulation by a rope. Donna had suffocated her son, but a critical question remained. Ramsey was considerably larger than Donna. She stood at 5 feet 6 inches tall and weighed 154 pounds. Ramsey, however, was a tall young man, nearly 6 feet tall and weighing 264 pounds. Given her height and weight, if she had simply approached him from behind and attempted to strangle him, he could have easily tossed her over his shoulder. Yet, Ramsey showed no signs of struggle. There were no injuries suggesting he'd been overpowered. This led detectives to doubt Donna's involvement in his death. So, who killed Ramsey? On the 8th of February, 2014, 60-year-old Donna Scriva sat in a jail cell, accused of dismembering her son's body. During a phone call with her sister, Donna made a shocking revelation about the circumstances of his death. She claimed she had just returned from the basement where she'd been doing laundry. Climbing the stairs, I found Ramsey in his room, lifeless. A man stood there, clad entirely in black, a mask concealing his face. He was unable to remove his clothing. The phrase repeated obsessively in my mind. This man, I realized, was Ramsey's killer. When I questioned him, his chilling response was a threat. Obey my every command, or Jason would be next. He pointed a gun at me. Over the next few days, he dictated my actions. He claimed to have been present when Dawn reported Ramsey missing to the police. He forced her to buy a saw from a specific store, never leaving her side, he said. Then, Dawn alleged that he was the one who dismembered her son. He beat me, then compelled me to help him dispose of Ramsey's remains. Finally, he and Dawn drove around St. Clair, scattering the body parts. Afterwards, he left, but not before threatening to kill her entire family if she spoke to the authorities. I don't know his whereabouts. Initially, my silence stemmed from a desperate need to ensure Jason's safety. The lawyer finally heard the full confession. Remarkably, he didn't leak the information to the press. This shocking case took a dramatic turn. But did the evidence truly support it? Among the clues found in St. Clair County was a saw's packaging box. Its product code led investigators to the store where it was purchased. Conveniently, the store had security cameras, and the police swiftly identified Donna as the buyer. The footage clearly showed her alone, purchasing the very saw used to dismember her son's body. Further bolstering the case against Donna was testimony from a neighbor. This witness, who lived near Ramsey's residence, called the police after the disappearance. She reported seeing Donna struggling to carry 3 large trash bags early one morning, after Ramsey had vanished. Detectives questioned the neighbor about the possibility of someone hiding in Donna's car. The neighbor confirmed she saw no one else. Intriguingly, Donna was also seen driving into the police station parking lot, but she was alone in her vehicle. No one witnessed anything but her. The security footage showed only her, alone. The theory about a masked man vanished like a soap bubble. It was all a cunning plan orchestrated by Donna. She acted alone. Police believe Donna sought a fresh start after reconnecting with a high school sweetheart. When her husband received a terminal diagnosis, Donna couldn't wait. She hastened the inevitable. Family members now believe she administered a lethal dose of morphine to expedite his death, then blamed the missing vial on Ramsey. She then coerced her son into retracting his accusations. After speaking with Donna's Texas acquaintance, detectives understood the motive. Margaret Aids contacted him and revealed his identity, providing the key to unlocking Donna's scheme. Donna was already incarcerated when the man received the devastating news. He was completely unaware of the events unfolding. The detective questioned him about Donna mentioning Ramsey's disappearance. He denied any knowledge, stating Donna hadn't even mentioned it. She'd remained silent on the matter. Their only shared concern was Donna's planned return to Texas after resolving her son's issues. The detectives theorized that Donna's plans began to solidify at that very moment. Ramsey had become an inconvenient obstacle, someone to be eliminated. Margaret Aids believed the house fire was the first attempt on the boy's life. Donna likely never anticipated her escape would involve such drastic measures. On the night of January 25th, a hardened Donna began her plan. She administered a tranquilizer to Ramsey, enough to subdue him without a struggle. Then, she strangled him. The following morning, the meticulous task of concealing the evidence commenced. Moving the body proved impossible without dismemberment. Complete liberation demanded this final, desperate act. On June 30th, 2015, the jury delivered their verdict. Donna was found guilty of first-degree premeditated murder, sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Her remaining days would be spent behind bars. Donna, a cruel and deeply disturbed woman, would never again walk free. No one could ever have imagined she was capable of such a thing. A mother committing such an act. It's unthinkable. The idea of a parent taking a child's life is incomprehensible to most. Ramsey's death was senseless. He didn't deserve it. The tragedy leaves one reeling, questioning how such a horrific event could occur. It forces us to confront the darkest aspects of human nature.